This is so a change is about to happen, not only for me, but for your life too. The thing is that wealth is near, wealth must be obtained by you. We have identified the hidden secrets that can shift generations to come. Before we encounter wealth, you will have to experience an uncomfortable change, but that change comes and goes. Your life is more valuable than what you may fear. Because wealth is obtained through creating value for others, you must shift first. You are light. Remember this throughout this video. You are light and ye are gods. Ye are gods of the might almighty high. It was appointed in scriptures of this so. In Genesis it says, let us make mankind in our images, in our likeness, so that they may rule over the fish in the sea, the birds and the livestock, animals and creatures, and be fruitful and multiply. Increase in numbers, fill the earth and subdue it. When we take a look at the word subdue, that means to overcome, bring under control. I think we needed to identify, and this is a part of our hidden secrets, that God is not man. So who they pose in pictures and the same fleshlight that we drew comparison to is not who we're really worshiping. God mentioning that he's not man, found in Numbers 23 and 19, it helps us emphasize that he doesn't change nature, and it's a difference between divine and human. Humans have limitations, such as fallibility. That means we can make mistakes and we can do wrong. God cannot and God will not. He's God. So when we take a look into identifying who we are, we need to draw comparison back to our maker. We need to identify those, the DNA, the genes, what draws us back to him. Why is it so that he stated what makes us in his likeness, basically? How are we shaping your image, Lord God? And so this is the change that you will encounter, because now you're needing to go to instructions. And when you take a look at these instructions, this is the first pillar that you need to identify. So let's go to John 1 and 5. John 1 and 5 states, the light shines in the darkness, and the darkness has not overcome it. Why is God light? Because we face darkness. The world is our darkness. You understand what I'm saying? We'll get more deeper into the video and unveil how it is so. But let's not fake. We've endured suffering for long, if not our generations that were yet in the past. And they've pushed a branch forward for us to be able to live and be walking testimonies of who our God truly is. And so when you start to look at God, you're looking at God in a spiritual awakening point. This is a transformation that is supposed to change you forever. And then you also can identify how to speak to the creator. So it states, so we're in John 1 and 5. Now let's take a look into what it says, because when we identify that we are light and that God has made mankind in his light, but we will shine in darkness, and darkness will not overcome us. Okay. So let's go to Genesis 32 and 3. 32 and 30. So Jacob called the place Peniel and said, it is because I saw the God face to face, and yet my life was spared. When you are researching God and you're finding your way through this life here, as I mentioned, God is, if anything, God is not a man, God is light. And you need to understand that the world, so we are connected to the land. Just as much as the land needs us to water it, we need the land to water us. and the land doesn't necessarily need us to water it, for God has that on schedule also. But there, we need the tree, we need trees for oxygen, to make papers. We depend on the land for the resources, but you depend on the land for many other things that you have not developed as of yet. So when we associate God with light. And when you take it into more a scientific way of looking at all of this, God is the sun. So, and we know that the sun can recreate logical circuits. That is what I mean by the sun. We need the sun to live. We need the sun to survive. You need nature to survive. No matter what, you need nature to survive, okay? So when we take a look at this, you're more now developing what you call the third eye, inner vision, and this is esoteric belief. All right, so this is what you're looking at here. And if you want to meet the creator, you need to understand that the pineal gland. So this is you now. So remember, God is light, and when you start to research it more, you understand that God is the sun. So that means if God is the sun, think about where is the sun? Where is the sun positioned in the sky? Which means the sun is everywhere. The sun is everywhere. That means God is everywhere and everything. What needs the sun? Everything. Even what we're about to discuss now. This here is called the pineal gland. Now, the pineal gland is located in a deep part of your brain. And this regulates your sleep cycle. So sleep, awake. Sleep, awake. So that's what it does. And it does that by releasing a substance called melatonin. So, and as melatonin is described to us, it's a sleep medicine that helps you go to sleep faster, and it releases the highest levels during the night and the lowest levels during the day. Okay? But the thing is that melatonin doesn't just do that. It also protects against death to the nerves, brain, memory, movement, thought. Which is the progressive loss against
neurodegeneration.
So against thought, which is called neurodegeneration. Somebody says, what is neurodegeneration? It's the death in nervous cells, the brain, the memory, the movement, and thought. So this is what melatonin protects against. If it doesn't, it will cause neurodegeneration. That is the function of the pineal gland. You may ask, why is this important? As I've mentioned, it's a shift that you have to encounter in order to reach the deepest parts of where God is. God is located in your pineal gland. Let's go back into the verse in which Jacob exclaimed. So Jacob called the place Peniel, saying, "It is because I saw God face to face, and yet my life is spared." Also, remember, the pineal gland has a sleep and wake cycle. That means when it's awake, it identifies there is light outside. When you're asleep, that means it identifies that it's darkness outside. In order to awake the pineal gland for God, you must put away darkness and come into the light. Coming into the light means coming into the truth. And the thing is that what causes neurodegeneration if that was to encounter? Exposure to harmful substances, high glycemic diets, medical conditions, social isolation. Now, we're not saying, when I want to make sure that we touch based on medical conditions. If you were born a certain way, God has made you that way for a reason, and He has a plan for you. We're talking about diseases that are caused by putting harmful things in our body, not taking care of our body, not when something arises in our body, not seeking a medical attention, and then social isolation. Do you know what this represents? Depression. If you take a look into what imposter syndrome equates to, you will then see that imposter syndrome contains these characteristics also, as in self-doubt, an experience mixed with anxiety, stress, and inadequacy, a fear of being found out, not knowing who you are, fleeting from the feeling of success after a challenge is met, neglecting self-care. This is neurodegeneration right here in front of you. How many Americans face this? How many Americans have to go through this? How many? How many? And it's only because you're not identifying yourself with the maker. In the scriptures it states, every knee shall bow, every tongue will confess. You need to believe in the truth. And so here you have the truth. So let's take it a step more. We identified the pineal gland in light, and how God is light, and how God regulates your sleep also. Sleep in a way of reality. Are you living, or are you just a extra in the movie called life? What are you bringing? Remember, you have to create value for others as Christ created value for us through His poverty, for that we may become rich. He was rich, but for our sake, He became poor. Shift. We need to shift in these generations. So let's take a look here. What is the whole meaning to all of this? As I stated, we are to preserve life and land for generations to come. We are to bring heaven to earth. Shift generations. Being broke hurts. Being poor hurts. That's excruciating pain. Being limited to life and watching others succeed after you puts you in a state of depression. Once you identify who you are, you can understand that we're here to preserve our life. Life needs memories, and memories you create, and those memories cost. And things are also costing more due to inflation. And then we have land. What are do you would you want your kids to have to go through the same things you've been through? Our land, they took our land from our we created the economy for 2 centuries. This is our land. God knew that this was going to come about way before, because what happened in the Garden of Eden, when we mix the knowledge of good and evil, thou shalt not eat of it, but thou shalt did, and thou now shalt surely die. We lost the ability to discern between morality and making independent moral judgment. The reason why we're preserving life and land is because we have powers. We have people that have powers that are creating disaster, and they have their own self agenda, and they've been having their own self agenda. The world has been industrialized. They let it go slavery to move into capitalism, and it's still a part of the same branch into slavery. It's just with less violence and less, and not so much um dehumanizing human beings in a way. And so when you start to align align with God's purpose and God and in God's character, and you start to identify why he died on the cross, start there. Start at the cross. The cross identified beating, suffering, crucifixion against good. You have, but he came and died for you. This was the plan. This plan was supposed to go into this plan so that he can shift this plan and show you that he does not have to abide by the human law, but you must know the truth first. Let's take it into Proverbs 29 and 18. A rod and the reprimandment impart wisdom, but a child left undisciplined disgraces its mother. When the wicked thrive, so does sin, but the righteous will see their downfall. Discipline your children, and they will give you peace. They will bring you the delights you desire. Where there is no revelation, people cast off in restraint, but blessed is the one who heeds wisdom and instructions. The servants cannot be corrected by mere words. Though they understand, they will not respond. Do you see someone who speaks in haste? There is more hope for a fool than for them. A servant pampered from youth will turn out to be insolent. An angry person stirs up conflict, and a hot-tempered person commits many sins. Pride brings a person low, but the lowly in spirit gain honor. The Bible is a metaphorical lecture and reading, and you are to cite this to yourself. If you step into that you are God and God is in you, and you just needed to go into the deep part of your brain and reset thy consciousness from the disasters of the world in which you have been encountering or which you have been introduced to, and understand that you are of divine inheritance, you will then be set apart and set aside for it, and you will become the reserve. And then you will understand the esoteric knowledge that God wants to introduce to you. You have your own philosophy, you have your own teaching. You are of your own, and that's what I wanted to encourage in today's video. We connected God back to light through our pineal, and the pineal then regulates by light in the darkness. And when you set aside in studies, and you set aside and you free yourself from the circumstances of the physical nature and the nature that is corrupted, and go into your inner self and understand that you have an intuition with a sensory with a sensory, and you understand that your intuition has a sensory bend, is because once Christ knows that you are ready for his work, that's when you will meet the messenger. The messenger can only be activated through the pineal. And it's a self-conscious effort in movement to discovering your wealth.